have tuned in to the Speak Volumes Talk Show with your host, LaKita the Coach and Rob TheNatural. It's time to speak up. Let's go.
Welcome to Speak Volumes Talk Show. You have myself, LaKita the Coach, as one of your hosts, and
Robert TheNatural.
And we are here on Empower Sundays to discuss many different topics with the basis of education, sports, and politics in mind. Today, our special guest is Mr. Robert Davis Sr. Yes, he is the father of my co-host, Rob TheNatural. Mr. Davis comes to us with a plethora of knowledge and experience in politics and activism that is important to our current climate across America, and more importantly, in our own communities. In today's episode, we're going to take a journey down the road of how the life of a young community leader begins. So, Mr. Davis, welcome.
This is the most awkward situation I've ever been in.
I know it is.
But go ahead.
So, my first question to you, Mr. Davis, is many people know you from seeing you and your face in the news. But if someone were to ask the question, can you tell us the answer to what is it that you do?
I could not answer that question. Son, what do I do? I don't know.
You do a lot, man. You are an activist, a father, a role model, an educator.
Well, that
was good.
That was a mouthful. But I mean, I must say that since I was your age, man, and dealing with politics and dealing with community activism and civic activities, I must say that I can't believe I'm 40. And
I forgot you was 40.
I'm getting old, and to see you doing your own show, it brings back memories when I was your age, and I had a little sports talk radio show with me and my friends at Renaissance High, and it's just amazing how things come full circle.
Mm-hmm.
And I love being in government, and I love being active in my community in various forms. But most importantly, I just love just interacting very limitedly, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I love people, but I don't like people.
Right.
So that's an oxymoron,
right,
within itself. But I just love being able to assist those when I'm called upon, whenever individuals may think I have an insight or ability to assist in a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Speaking of that passion you were talking about, where did it come from? Who sparked you or put you in the direction of where you just realized that I want to be this when I grow up?
Surprisingly, my mother. My mom was very quiet, but not quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And being the youngest of five, she really instilled in me the importance of having a voice. And especially, I never forget, we had a program in Highland Park called the Highland Park PAL program, which was very instrumental in a lot of us who grew up in Highland Park. And thankfully, former Mayor Martha G. Scott was very instrumental, and is a sports PAL program which helped develop the Detroit PAL program, ironically enough. And my coach, who you've met, Coach Dickerson, Coach Emerson, Coach Hairston, when she was no longer when former Mayor Scott was no longer the mayor and they dismantled the program, and a lot of us were very upset and angry over the program being dismantled. My mom was like, well, why don't y'all do something about it?
Right.
And we were teenagers, 12, 13 years old, and then we organized, being very vocal, and I think that was the very first time that any of us were able to organize something of that magnitude, and we were able to get some attention from the media, and based upon us being vocal and my mom, I never forget this on Elmhurst. This was formed right on the front porch, and it was like, we had nothing to do. We were used to going to practice, playing basketball, and her giving me that spark helped launch me in being a very quiet individual to becoming a very vocal individual.
Nice. So number one, I hear having a voice. Someone taught you to have a voice, and I think that would be one characteristic of someone younger beginning to become an activist.
Well, I mean, many people don't even realize people become activists or becoming activists, and that's why I truly love the movement that Black Lives Matter and other young folks getting engaged. I mean, even while individuals are in the bar or in the club, I mean, you begin to develop a voice amongst your own peers, and most people don't even realize that even in the midst of you having fun, or even in the midst of playing basketball, playing football, or any athletic situation, is that you begin to develop a situation where you become leaders.
Yes.
And I mean, and a lot of young people don't realize the strong voice and the power that they have in terms of being able to galvanize a movement. And that's why I see a lot of the movements that's taking place now. You like seeing fresh new faces, not the same old faces over and over again.
Amen.
And when you begin to see young folk really stepping forward and realizing the power that they have, I mean, it's truly a monumental movement. I had a conversation with the now president, Joe Biden, during the campaign, and one thing that I appreciate, the voice that he was able to lend to young African American individuals, male and female, in the city and in urban areas, and giving them the opportunity to have that platform. I mean, it speaks volumes. And when I see some of when I see some of my friends that are now part of the administration, and how far they've come, and how he's given them the opportunity to have that voice, I mean, it really gives me hope in terms of the next chapter, in terms of like your generation.
Nice.
Well, since we're speaking on that, and you talked about where you grew up, and you grew up in Highland Park, can you talk about some of the challenges you faced growing up that really made you into who you are today?
I love my city. I love Highland Park. Highland Park is me. And the friendships and bonds and struggles and all the great things that help you to become you. Life is not going to be perfect.
Right.
But I could have not pictured myself growing up in a better place than the city of Highland Park. It teaches you character. It teaches you strength. And the friends in which I've had since I was a kid, I still have today. I mean, they're valuable friendships.
Right.
I would never trade them for the world. I love the fact that, you know, we want to reach a city, but you couldn't tell us we weren't rich.
Amen.
But
exactly.
The valuable lessons and playing basketball in the alley and playing basketball at the park and the neighborhood games and walking to and from school, which you have no knowledge of, and being able to just grow up and learn certain things that my mother couldn't teach me.
Right.
The things in which the world has to teach you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am forever grateful for being able to grow up in what I call the greatest city on earth, which is HP.
Okay.
Got you.
HP.
You're very shy, man.
Me? I ain't shy.
So, I have a question, and I know you talked a little bit about it, but I know that as a young man, you did some very unique and significant things that changed a lot for Highland Park. So I want to say, when you think about what you began fighting for, like you said, you started out with they took something away from you and your peers, and you guys wanted to fight back for that. But then you kind of changed it, or I should say, you went further and started to develop like a relationship with key people who were into politics in your city. How did that start for you, and where did that passion come from? Because most kids just want to play basketball, and that's it.
But it's funny you asked that. Is that my mother used to always say I have a very old soul. So most people that people see me around are older than me.
Yes, I can say that by the first time I met you.
they're older than me, and it's strange how things just evolved in terms of my political activism in the city of Highland Park. It really began at my barbershop, and my barber, who was didn't even realize at the time he was over the PAL program when the PAL program was there in the city, and he was much older, but he was I must say that he was like the godfather of politics in Highland Park, and then his wife, Miss Johnson, was the ultimate militant, pro-Africa. I mean, African garb. They sold everything. Pro-black, and starting in the barber chair, and having conversations with me, Mr. Johnson, and then he began introducing me to certain people in the city, and from there, just like caught fire, and which eventually led to me becoming the youngest elected official in the city at the age of 22.
Hey, youngest
yes,
elected
sir.
official.
And that was birthed again. That was at my graduation party from the University of Michigan Dearborn, and my mom. We were at Fishbones, and she was like, "Why don't you think about the next chapter?" Because at that time I was doing a lot of writing, which a lot of people don't realize is that I was a sports journalist before I was a politician.
Right.
And I must admit that I had it from 17, leaving Renaissance, being able to write for the largest daily at that time in the nation, which was the Detroit News, and from high school through college. And my basketball coach used to hate it, is because like during the summer, he would have to adjust practice times based upon the fact I was working.
Right.
This sounds familiar.
Sounds very familiar.
I was working, and he used to hate it. And Coach Turner, he used to hate it with a passion. And I'm like, man, you got to take the good with the bad.
Right.
But I just being able to do both, and having older individuals in my life really helped mold and guide me in my early years, and even now. And so I must say it's a testimony to say that when you have truly older mentors and those who have gone through things in life and paved the way, it's very beneficial.
I heard you talk about how you were doing both. What sacrifices did you have to make as like a young kid, or even when you were in college, to just focus on your craft and play basketball and deal with all the stress that you had to deal with? Because you kind of balding right now, my guy. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey man, just chill. No, it was a lot of sacrifice. I didn't party in college. I party now, but
right.
I don't.
Sure do.
I didn't party in college, and my friends would tell you this. Like I didn't even drink until I was 21, legit 21. So a lot of things that a lot of my friends were doing and hanging out, having fun, I
didn't do.
I literally didn't even have time to do.
Right.
And I didn't miss it. Not really. But as I reflect on it, I wish I had certain experiences that they experienced, as compared to growing up too fast.
Right.
And that's one thing in which I say I grew up quickly.
Very quickly.
And it's like, geez, I didn't enjoy some of the fun things.
Right.
Because I was just trying to focus too quickly on trying to be an adult
and the future.
And that's one of the regrets that I have.
So before we move to the next question, just a note for all of the people who are listening. So I have characteristic number 2. When someone talks about thinking about your next chapter, I think as a college student graduating or about to graduate or in college, one of those things that our parents mostly say, think about your next chapter. And these are all good, characteristics for moving in the path that you want to move. So I appreciate you for bringing that part up.
I mean, it's I remember when I was 20 and now I'm 40. and time flies.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure
oftentimes when you're young, you don't think about when you're no longer in a certain lane, and that's difficult for even adults. Is that sometimes you get so fixed in the current lane you're in that you don't think about, okay, what's the next?
Right.
So I got to begin to flip the page. So what's the next page?
Right.
We're going to find out.
You got one, Rob?
What?
You awfully quiet, man.
I'm not quiet. I'm just listening to you. See, I'm observing.
Yeah, okay.
I'm actually realizing a lot because
the connections, right?
We are like the same person. It's crazy because it's like I'm literally both of y'all put together.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense because when you said that you had an old soul and like how when you were younger you had all older role models, I am literally the same way. I literally hang with my mom's friends more than I hang with people my age. And it's crazy because it teaches me a lot because you see their life and how it unfolded with the path that they took, and you can see what not to do, what to do, and what paths to take to get to where you're trying to get to, and it helps you see a lot of things.
It does. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I think about your goddad and how he's 20 years older than me.
Right. Right.
But in terms of him teaching me when I was your age, I mean, it's just immense, and how everything comes full circle. How him and Nardo and others from HP come and watch you play, and then try to teach you certain things in terms of how they were teaching me. I mean, it's truly a blessing, and that's why I laugh sometimes when I just sit back and watch and observe and look at some of they ain't kids no more, but some of the young guys that grew up in the city, and now that they out hanging and having fun, and they got families of their own, and they come back and say certain things. I say, man, I didn't realize that.
Right.
At that time, I was in my 20s, and they were in their teens. So, I mean, it's always valuable when you learn from other folk.
Right.
At a young age, Mr. Davis, you worked diligently on a campaign to overturn the mayor in Highland Park. Looking back, what did that experience teach you?
That's another loaded question. That campaign put people in my life that are still there, even today. There's a picture in the paper that they put in the paper that you always show me that.
You look like Ace Boogie. I'm telling you.
But it's funny is that the house that I live in today, that the picture was taken right across the street.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And the individuals who helped me and assisted me in that campaign are like my uncles, my adopted uncles and aunties.
So I'll just say, when we were married, I used to always tell the young people, like, we got to go with the older people today. Like, we used to hang out with everybody old.
Old.
This was even before you were born, though, son. We would go
I'm
out.
not even surprised anymore.
Like,
I'm not surprised that I hang with old people now. I'm not even surprised. I
Our
used to think it
whole
was
crew
weird.
was older people.
I value that knowledge. I truly do. I laugh when I see that picture. That campaign was truly something different because that year.
Tell us, make sure we know how old were you when you started that campaign?
I was 17.
17 years old.
I was
Wow.
17.
Trying to overturn the mayor.
I was 17, and that year was something. That was the year I graduated. It was 1997, and it was funny because during that time in Highland Park was going through a very difficult transition, and the mayor, who's now deceased, lived right down the street from where I live now, from where we live, and it's so funny that after that campaign, he used to always try to get me to work for the city.
After you try to get him fired? Wow.
He used to always try to get me to work for the city, and I was like, nah, I'm cool. But that taught me a lot about organization. It taught me a lot about myself because not everything you do people like.
Right.
Amen.
And so when you step out there and do something that you truly believe in,
yes,
sometimes it's not popular.
Right.
And so you got to have the strength and the courage to really stand upon
your decisions and your thinking.
Yep. And
instead of following the crew.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you tell me all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, that is so true. And so that campaign taught me a lot about myself in terms of being able to withstand criticism.
Yeah, because I promise you, anybody that you was with would not have been able to do that. Anybody your age would not have been able to do what you did.
My mom used to tell me all the time, and because she used to get phone calls about, from people, even from my siblings, their friends and their parents, who may have supported the mayor at that time, who necessarily didn't agree with what I was doing. And so that's the biggest thing, because that was the first time in my life I think I ever faced criticism
heavily.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm thinking about the Black Lives Matter thing right now, or I should say the Black Lives Matter movement. And I know I heard you talk about it, so that I know you supporting it. You really are believing in it. What advice could you give to, say, for example, younger people now? Okay, so I'll give you a perfect example, and this is just so funny that we're all together. But I always say that Robert has an advocate and activist as a father and an English teacher and coach as a mom. And so he has turned into his little advocate, his little activist type.
I'm going to speak my mind regardless.
And so one of the things he's doing right now for Black Lives Matter, I don't know if you were at the game early enough the other day to notice, but
I haven't stood up for a national anthem this whole season.
Oh, that's good.
And he vowed that the week that happened to George Floyd, which was a year ago. So when the season started, I didn't think he remembered, or I was like, okay, I wonder, is he going to do it? But he's doing it, and he's sticking up and standing up for something that he believes in. And I just think that
I'll be the only one.
Yeah, I think it's a tribute to what we've taught him, though, which is a blessing.
I didn't know you had that in you, man. I didn't know you, but that's a good thing, and that's why I'm glad that you're learning and you take certain initiatives on your own without having being.
I'm no longer afraid to be different.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to be different in my eyes.
That's a true testimony.
Yeah. Do you think that? So again, what's some advice you would give other young people who feel like they want to step up and do something, but maybe they don't have the courage or support system that he has?
That's difficult, and it's quite ironic you asked me that question, because I receive emails from people
all the time. I'm sure you do. I get phone calls still, and it's years later.
And it's kind of strange, because my son would tell you that I am a very distant person, and this person, she has a son, and she was asking me how to get her son involved in various aspects of activism, and I said, you can't force it.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. You can't force it. You have to. It's something that you have to have in you already.
Yeah, and you can't force it. And you got to be
passionate.
Thank you.
You have to be passionate about it.
And I think for folk who may be listening, it's when you're listening to your peers, I think that's where it grows. And sometimes you don't realize how much influence you have on your friends,
right?
Or even difference, right? So you may hear them all agreeing with something, and in your
you
heart
just feel the wrong way. Yeah.
So it comes.
I feel that all the time. Like it's just like certain stuff that they just do, and they talk about. I'm just like, how?
Why?
Like why?
So I mean, they got to listen to the inner. I mean, and I know it's hard. I mean, because everybody wants to be accepted. Everybody wants to be cool.
Right.
And
it's an image they want. Everybody wants an image.
But a true leader develops their own image. And you have to walk in your own footsteps. And sometimes you have to be bold enough. When you do certain things, you got to walk
by yourself.
Man.
That is so cute.
My
you gotta
man.
walk alone. I feel you. You don't understand how much I'm feeling you right now. Like I'm on the same thing. Like I'm walking by myself in my own path, because if you ain't with me, I'm not going to detour or do anything I know I don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Just to look cool.
All right.
Thinking about so when you think about Highland Park. So Highland Park is, of course, a city within a city. Was it more difficult to fight fights in Highland Park than it would have been if you were in Detroit, maybe? Or, and
what do you mean fight fights?
When I say fights, I mean because you had to do a lot of things to try to make things better,
Oh,
right?
you're talking about political?
No, yeah, like politically. And I'm thinking, is it bigger, more problems, or it doesn't even matter in terms of when you're fighting as an advocate?
I think anyone who grew up in a small city like Highland Park, everybody knows everybody.
Exactly, and that's kind of what I was getting at.
Everybody grew up with each other. I mean, everybody knows each other's family, so it makes it a little bit more personal.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
It's a lot more personal.
You feel it different. You're not doing it for the politics. You're doing it because of what you have, the feelings in your heart.
Absolutely, and so that's. I mean, I've been in a lot of different political fights, but the political fights that I most treasure the most are those that are most personal to me, and dealing with the city. The Lord blessed me with a great friendship with our former sheriff, Benny Napoleon, and the love of his life, his significant other, is from Highland Park. And it was so strange. It was so funny because his daughter ended up marrying Pastor Jackson's son, who all of us grew up on Elmhurst, and it was so funny growing up, not realizing whose daughter she was at that time.
Wow, you didn't know.
Right.
And all of us used to be up at Hackett playing basketball. But one of the things in which he used to instill in me all the time was the value of community and the value of where you grew up. And that's why I love the city that I grew up in. I'm blessed to still be there and provide some type of contribution to it. But I always tell folks all the time, my most personal political fights are those that were local. And in terms of, even if it was dealing with getting the trash picked up timely, or just having some activity for the young folk.
Right.
I mean, I treasure those battles, and I actually miss it. I miss the people that I used to always be entrenched with, who are no longer here. But those are the political fights that I treasure the most, and the most personal to me.
I like that.
I'm glad you.
Go ahead.
I'm glad you said something about where you grew up at and how important it was, because when I'm always in Farmington, people always say I'm from Farmington. I'm like, nope, I'm from HP. I'm from HP, Highland Park. You better know something, because I'm not from around here.
Now I look at your like long list of experience. So even from your Detroit News and sports show in high school, all the way to being the youngest board member voted in, you even became the board president. One of the jobs that I thought was your probably most important back then was your union rep job. So when you think about that job, can you just share a little bit for people who may not know, like that's a job that young people who major in poli-sci and okay.
No, I that really, President Garrett gave me an opportunity. We staged a sit-in at the University of Michigan.
There we go. There's that fight, y'all. Staging a sit-in.
At the Black Student Union. I never forget this. I was a junior in college, and we up in U of M Ann Arbor, and they were the ASME workers, the cafeteria workers in the hospital, and it was we staged a sit-in, and that began my activity within the union.
Okay.
And President Garrett never thought that he'd see some black students up in Ann Arbor. So it was funny when we after we did that sit-in and they were able to get the union contract. he was like, "Have you ever thought about, being part of the union and, organizing?" I said, "Nah." I said, "Nah." And he was like, "Well, think about it." And I said, "Well, all right, I think about it." And he's like, "I got a couple of internships, and they were paying so much money." I said, "Man," I said, and Jerry would tell you that's how the universe works. And his brother, President Garrett's brother's named Jerry, who's the most outspoken, flamboyant. Jesus Christ. And from then, being within the union and the training that I went through to be a union organizer truly taught me how to really become a leader, because in understanding the organizational structure of any corporate 500 or any political organization, you got to learn how to build the foundation. And before you can do anything, you got to have a structured, solid foundation.
Yeah.
And that union training taught me how to build a foundation. I couldn't walk out the front door and have people vote for me if I didn't have a solid foundation.
Right.
Listen up, y'all.
And so that training of how becoming a union organizer in terms of how to give people the strength in a voice, because many people don't even realize they have the strength in numbers and having the strength in their voice. That taught me so much, and that taught me how to build that political foundation that launched my political career.
Nice.
So I always thank President Gary. He may say something else, but that time, and that was the only job I ever had.
I was there.
I've been blessed to only have one job
Right.
throughout my entire 20s and 30s.
And I'm glad Robert just said I was there,
Yeah,
because
I
I
was.
think about, again, raising him and both of our backgrounds, and how Robert, as a little boy, was in the law library constantly.
Oh my goodness.
And thinking about his writing skills now, thinking about
I was in the law library when I was in the gym.
Exactly.
I was in the library. I was in Ask Me building at 12 o'clock at night. Like, I'm like, yo, can we go home? I'm hungry.
Like, I've done my homework, Dad.
Right. I'm sitting there in other people's offices on the computer because he just won't stop working.
Researching it. And that's the smart part that I always say. We are so blessed.
I can't believe you remember that.
I remember
Well,
everything.
right.
I had a birthday party there. I'm not gonna lie. Labor Day was my favorite holiday.
Yeah.
Labor Day was my favorite holiday. For real.
Because you went to the Labor Day parade.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you said something about the foundation, because I was gonna bring this up. But for the people that don't have a foundation, right? It's okay to be your own foundation. And it's okay for you to be the foundation for somebody else.
Yes.
That's the biggest part.
Good job.
That's
Rob.
one thing. Like, my mom has taught me immensely that we were here to serve others. And when I watch my dad and my mom, and they have put others first before themselves plenty of times. And then sometimes you got to sit back and say, shoot, when am I going to do something for myself?
Yes. Yes, that's the truth, right?
And you sit there and you say that, but in your heart, you just like, I can't.
Which leads to our T-shirts, Rob.
Right.
Self-care, you know. What is the most difficult part you think that about being a community activist or a politician? Like, what's the most difficult part of those jobs? Do many people stay in those jobs like for a very long time, or is it like the NBA, 3 years maybe, and then they're out?
It all depends
on the person.
But yeah, it's not having personal space. It's very difficult being a public figure sometimes, because a person can see you out and then they immediately try to invade your personal space.
Right.
But at the same time, it's
your business is the world.
That's the most difficult part. Is that you have given yourself to the public.
Yes.
And that could be a blessing and a curse. And I tell folks many times that, and I think that's why I oftentimes become so distant, is because sometimes I try to get back my personal space sometimes. But it's all about your commitment to what you want to do. And you got to realize that anything that you do, there's going to be some sacrifice. And I've sacrificed immensely.
I agree.
You sure have.
Sometimes, and I think that what most people don't understand is that sometimes when you step out and do certain things, the things you do today can impact you 20 years from now.
Yes, it can.
And so that's why I don't go by the mantra, live for today. I don't do that because I understand that some things you may do today may not cost you that moment.
Exactly.
But it may cost you down the line. And but
I
for
know
the
the young people feeling that.
Oh yeah, that's I am very cautious when I give advice because I did I wasn't accustomed to Zoom. He had to teach me. But right after my mom died, this group asked me to be a part of this forum. And I'm like, I really don't want to do it. And he was like, no, man, we really need it. So part of this group talk, this forum that they did, which was very inspirational, this person asked me a question that I have never, I don't have difficulty answering any question, but he asked me this question that really touched me in a way, in which he asked, do you regret anything? And at that moment, I began to reflect on a number of things.
You reflected on 30 years.
I did, and I said it's a simple question, but it really made me take a step back. And I told him, I said, one thing I regret is not following my gut. And not following my gut on certain situations ultimately cost me. But I said that not following my gut really is one thing that I regretted, is not following my gut.
And I'm gonna add to that for young people, especially realizing that God has given us these inner powers, and normally it comes in your gut, and when you feel it, you should act on it in most cases.
Take the opportunity.
Yes, because it comes for a reason, especially when you're with your peers or you're doing things for other people, or you think, if I do this, I'll move faster here, or I'll get here faster. So that's a very important lesson. That's our third or fourth one this show. How has being a dad helped you in your career?
Yeah, Dad.
And has fatherhood added anything different for how you speak up or what you speak up for?
Yeah.
Fatherhood changed me. I am. I would be doing some different stuff.
That's for sure.
But for fatherhood. But fatherhood changed me for the best. I didn't want kids. And I would never forget a conversation that I had with my mother, and she asked me, she said, now, how has your opinion changed about being a dad?
Oh, wow.
And it said, you were absolutely right. It was the best thing for me, because the decisions in which I make on a daily basis is not just based upon me, It's I have to look after your tall, lanky self.
Yeah.
And
I have to look after you too. So.
Tell him, Rob.
So it changed me for the better, and I must say that I'm forever grateful that you were born, and that
He's our greatest gift.
You have truly changed me, because as Jerry would tell you all the time, that I would be doing some crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
I put your heart in the right place.
Yes, Rob.
All the weekends in the mall and the movies, you know, you became a lover. You became a lover. Most definitely.
So we have a call and that we're going to take real quick. Go ahead, caller.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good. This is Lady J.
Hi, Lady J.
I just want to say congratulations to you and Robert Davis Jr.
Thank you.
I am so proud of you on your new show.
Thank you. We
The
love
sky
you.
is the limit. I just see you guys going just to the top.
Thank you so
You
much.
guys are fabulous.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. We appreciate you and congratulations on your show and good luck the rest of the way. We in this together, boo. Coolie high.
Yeah. And then I want to give a shout out to our Cooley Cardinals for life.
oh Lord,
Yes,
Jesus
yes.
Christ!
Someone, Nigel Dalton just bought our school back. Just FYI,
He did?
he just bought our school back, and he's going to
Yeah.
be doing all types of stuff.
Wonderful.
Yes, he did. So, amen to that, and congratulations to us Cardinals.
Yes.
Thank you so much, boo.
All right, you have a good one.
You too. Thank you. That was a good call. I think you got another question. I got one last one. Do you
You
have
got
another?
one? Nah, I was just gonna say something
Okay.
because I'm over here reminiscing and reflecting because I just see how much y'all have taught me and how it is coming into effect now.
Okay.
And I know both of y'all remember when I was younger, I always wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to be a poli-sci major.
Yes, he did.
I wanted to be a
If
politician.
I didn't come home with a tie, a brand new tie, he used to be pissed
Man,
as a kid.
man.
And he loved ties because you wore a tie every day. He
Sure
wanted to
did.
major in poli-sci because his dad majored in poli-sci.
I wanted to do everything like him. But what I do remember is that my dad and my mom always taught me to have my voice, and they always gave me a choice for things. It was never just a do this, do that. It was I had a voice in my own household, so I could make decisions for myself.
Yes.
You know, which is really now too, and it really has come into effect really this year because I've realized that I don't really want to major in poli-sci anymore
Why?
because I'm not really into it anymore.
So what you want to major in?
Tell him what you're going to major
I want to
in.
major in fashion, one,
Mm-hmm.
and two, business
Yes.
business marketing.
Yes.
You know, I do the dressing. That's what I do. Okay, that is exactly what I do, and that's something I have a passion for.
Yes.
We'll have a discussion.
Yeah.
We have another call. Oh, they hung up. Okay. Oh, wow. That's so funny.
Nah.
But
we'll have we'll discuss.
Nah, like it's just certain things they just fade sometimes. You know,
I understand.
I think you'll still be.
I would definitely be an activist, most
sure.
definitely. I just won't major in it.
Yeah, yeah. So what happened is we researched the classes and we started talking about those classes. That's the call? Okay, we'll take a caller. Hello, caller. How are you?
Hello.
Hi.
I had a question for Robert Davis,
Which one?
senior.
Okay.
So my question would be, Robert,
Yes.
you mentioned how you had a regret and you wish you'd gone with your gut feeling. Would that gut feeling have been going to Michigan State over
This got to be somebody he knows.
Gotta be.
This voice sounds very familiar.
It's a lovely one, isn't it?
No, it's not. Absolutely not.
No green and white was in our house.
I don't know. Y'all looking pretty green and white to me.
Asia.
Hey, niece.
Hey, y'all.
And Auntie Kita.
No.
Michigan State would not have been the move.
Not the move. Our house is blue and gold.
Listen, it's a beautiful place. The grass is green. You'll love it there. Your daddy wish he went. It's okay. We're transitioning.
So basically,
it's
she's trying to make you go to Michigan State, Ron.
Nah.
We appreciate you guys calling in
And watching.
I knew that was you.
It's a lovely show. We're enjoying the show.
Oh, thank y'all.
Oh, no problem.
All righty. Well, that call is going to give us the wrap up for our show. But before we go, we would like to give notice to Melba Clark, whose Path to Peace journey is a mental health counseling service. Today we are wearing shirts that represent her company that says therapy. And with that, we would love for you to look up A Path to Peace. It's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, and look up her services. They are really, really important. Path to Peace _ counseling LLC on Instagram. But we want to say thank you, because you didn't have to do this. We know that you
I wasn't even expecting you to say yeah.
Yeah, like, we appreciate you for like really coming and being our first guest. It was important that you were our first guest.
I'm very grateful for the invitation. I did not want to do this, but considering that I've done a ton of interviews for other folk.
Amen.
You had to do it for your son.
I had no choice.
Yeah, I would have held it against you.
I had no
Forever.
choice but to do it for you, to whom I sacrificed my life for.
Amen. Me too.
So it was a different experience, I must say.
Oh, that's good. But gave you something different.
But it was very fulfilling, worthwhile, and very liberating too. But I'm gonna look back on this one, brother. You owe me.
Yes. Well, we thank you so much. And Speak Volumes Talk Show episode 1 is over. And we are your hosts, LaKita the Coach.
And Robert the Natural.
We will see you next week. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in. Join us every Sunday at 11 a.m. right here on Empower Sundays on the Vent Radio Network. Support the show by sending your donation to $The Robert Davis Co. on Cash App. Stay connected to the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Roku, and the Vent Radio app. You can't be silent any longer now that you're a part of the Speak Volumes Talk Show with your hosts, Kita the Coach and Rob the Natural. Y'all come back now.